I just thought I'd do a little run through and a little pre-water change feeding with everyone. This is my devil pair, big male here. This little girly friend back there. These guys get the large cichlid. She absolutely loves it. She's still getting a little bit better about coming out and eating. She doesn't really come out and eat for me too often. She's not skinny and not underweight, so she's obviously eating. She's just a little more shy about it than he is. He couldn't care less about who's in the room or who's watching. I think she's been a little more social ever since I moved her pot around. She can't quite get back in there to hide behind it as well now. Moved it a little closer, so hopefully if she decides to lay again, it's up on top where he's a little more able to get to it. Their last spawn, I think it was just a little too far away for him to be able to do anything. I'll apologize now for things to be a little bit messy. I'm gonna go through, do water changes between tonight and tomorrow, so it's been working a lot this week, and with the holiday, it's been hard to get to it. But the next ones down here are my extra lion's eye that I moved out of the living room tank. That's got the pair with some fry in it. I got the other 5 in here. This is that subdominant male that was in the other tank. He's now the biggest one in here. I think this is probably another male also. You got the one known female in here. Still the only one showing any kind of spot. I don't know if these other 3 are all male, or if the females just haven't emerged yet, but I mean, both of them were at least this size before their spot developed, and you could really see them. So, might have to pull them and vent them and see if I can't get some kind of a guess if who's who in here, because I am going to be moving these 3 out shortly. I just don't have the room to keep them all here. And they're in here with my Temens's peacock bass. He's a little guy. I'm still trying to pellet train him, trying to get him off the live foods. I'm not pushing it too hard yet until I get my 150 up and I move him and my mono into that tank. Feed the lion's eye while we're right here. These guys are still all getting power feed. And even after the moves, it still hasn't affected their eating habits at all. As you can see, the bass couldn't really care less. Kind of surprised. This is the first time that I've been able to keep anything in with the lion's eye, and they haven't really touched this one. I had my bigger mono in here, and the mono is probably overall twice the size of this Temens's. He already had a couple wounds, but they ended up tearing into him pretty bad. I'm hoping his tail fin will regrow, but if not, he can be a special little one right in my big tank, along with anything else I happen to decide to use in that tank. I'm not completely sure of my whole stock in there yet, but they might be leaving this guy alone. He's got quite a bit of attitude. So he was in here divided with a flower horn that I had, and they used to go back and forth at the divider all day. He'd flare and charge the divider at her. That's the first time I've ever seen a peacock bass flare at anything and really go after, especially as aggressive as she was. Move over to the other side. These are the Amarillo and Rio Mag grow-ups that I got. And you can see the biggest Amarillo right here. Another one of the Amarillos. Here's the biggest umbie right now. They're all right up at the glass, and it's dinner time for these two. These guys are getting the small cichlid and tropical pellets, the blend that I have put together. It's just a 50-50 blend. It just makes it easier for me to be able to kind of alternate their diet, because they're obviously not too worried about which pellets are which. But that way I'm getting two different kinds and with them. They pick it up and I'll pretty much eat anything that comes floating by. And there's still a few up here. You can see they'll either go up and get them or they'll wait for them to come down. These guys aren't picky at all. Here soon I'm gonna try to get these guys upgraded to probably one of the 40 gallons, just to give them a little more room to spread out. I still gotta get a couple of my 75s resealed so I can get some stuff spread out and upgraded tank size. So far so good with the Amarillos and the Umbies being together. I'm kind of surprised about that. I've lost a couple of the smaller Umbies in here. But I haven't really lost anything in a while. If any that I have lost in here, I've just ended up letting it go. Within a day, day and a half, they've gone through and completely picked apart any of dead that's been left. So it hasn't really affected my parameters too much. Body hasn't really stayed around long enough. Then down here, got some Red Isletus grow outs. These guys are still fairly skittish. They eat really well. Not 100% sure how many are even in here. So hard to keep count. That's probably the largest right there. He's probably 1 3/4 to maybe 2 inches total. As you can see, they're all kind of jumpy and pretty skittish. Get some food in there, hopefully we can get a couple of them to come out. These guys are on a mid-level tank, but they still don't seem like they're as outgoing as some of the other Amphilophus that I have around. But hopefully they'll pep up a little bit as they get a little bit bigger. These guys are also getting the small cichlid and tropical mix. Still a favorite hiding spot of them is up under these filters. Both these things have my double sponge filter on it without the fluidized bed. The fluidized bed that I had for these is just a little too tall for these tanks. Doesn't have enough room to be able to have the right circulation in it. The top of the bottle actually sits right at the top of the surface. Doesn't quite work out for these tanks. The Umbie tank with the Amarillos, it's actually a 35 gallon, so it's just a little bit taller and it just barely reaches. But the bottle is only about 1 inch under the surface, so it just doesn't create enough water movement for me. Even this one, I got the lift pipes a little taller than I'd like. I need to cut it down a little bit. As you can see in this one, it's quite a bit lower. It's only a couple inches over the top of the sponges. Creates a lot more movement in the water column. I'm gonna come over here. Got my buddy's jag that I'm watching. She's definitely got a lot of attitude. She's actually going to be going back over to his house this week because I have another little grow out that I'm going to keep here with me to try to put some size on it. He just picked up male Moda and got a female coming to me shortly, so I need to have this spot open for that one. And that Moda will be in here with this little male jag that I picked up from a local guy not too long ago. That way these two he can have a pair of jags, and then he'll shortly have a pair of Modas also. Still gotta try to find another Freddy for him. One he's got, not sure if it's a male or female, but try to find another one for him. Just to give you ideas in size, when I measured him when I first got him, which was a couple weeks ago, from tip of his nose all the way to the end of his tail, 7 inches. And then the best I could measure her to where I'd guess her tail fin would have been, she was about 11 and a half total length. But you can just see the girth difference on these two. And you can see her attitude. She wasn't anything like this, and I think some time that she spent in the tank with my big My Devil male, I think some of his attitude kind of rubbed off on her a little. But we'll get these guys some food. She's getting the large cichlid. If I'm not careful, she'll actually come up out of the water and go after my hand. She might just be a little too wound up right now to actually eat. See that big old Parachromis mouth. Just suck in anything that goes in the tank with her. And just because we're trying to put a little bit of size on this guy, we'll give him some power feed, which he's getting definite little attitude to him also. As you can see, he just loves the power feed and suck that down without any hesitation whatsoever. He'll also eat the large cichlid, but it's a little bit bigger than what I'd like to be giving him. He's definitely a nice little fish. He's got a great pattern to him. He's a little more striped than what the female is. Female's got almost like a leopard print kind of, or a jaguar print, if you would. But definitely a little more attitude to her. I just gotta be careful messing with her because I got a power strip directly behind her tank, and if I'm not careful, she splashed it a couple of times already. I'm surprised it hasn't shorted it out yet, and she'll randomly get her little attitudes, and just gotta be careful so she doesn't hurt herself, or especially the male. She ended up knocking the divider at an angle the other day. No one got through it, but I gotta get some zip ties on the top to keep it from moving. But hey, we got one more tank in here. This will be my Chanchos. This will be my largest one here. They're all fairly dark right now, just this tank with kind of a duller light on it, and it's got no substrate in it, so it's just an all black tank, as you can see. Well, they share the tank with two little pink convicts that they keep around for breeding feeders. They had some eggs back here. I don't know if you guys can see them. I can't even quite see them, but I think they might be little wigglers in there now. This is like the third time these guys have spawned in the last month and a half. Nothing ever really makes it out of it. Just either the parents are picking them off or the chanchos are getting them. But chanchos are still a little iffy about coming all the way up to the surface to eat, and they're still on the smaller side, so I've been giving them some veggie krill. As you can see, they all love. Even the convicts get in on it. I mean, this is just pretty small pellet. And even what hits the bottom, they just go right up after. Tank's got kind of a snow globe going. A little bit extra food that's been in here, and a little bit extra waste that I just got to go through and get cleaned out of here tonight. And probably pick up some gravel for this tank and the Jag tank tomorrow. It's a little easier to gravel vac than to try to get some of this food and their waste off of the glass itself. You actually got to get in and wipe the glass. I got my little hang-on box here. It's got some little fake plants in it to help break it up. I'm probably actually going to be moving this out to the living room tank soon to be able to maybe move some lines I fry into it. But so far the parents have been doing awesome with them. So maybe I'll just let them go and not mess with it and let the parents do what they do best. And haven't really seemed like I've been losing any. They've been spread out all over the tank lately, but that's okay. They're the only ones in there, and I've moved everyone else out so they got plenty of space, and it's only got an air filter on it, so no danger to them. But we'll actually run over to that corner real quick. Got a light on in here. See the pike that are going to Conway shortly. And even these guys are eating pellet really well. Sorry about the glare in here. I haven't installed the lights on this stand yet. The lights that are going on this stand are actually the lights that are still over the Lion's Eye tank. It's the same kind of lights that's over the My Devil and the extra Lion's Eye. It's just a T5 10K light, but they're 3-foot fixtures. They don't quite fit on that stand that they're on, so I'm going to bring them in here. 3-foot light lights up these tanks perfectly fine. Because this is actually a borrowed 90 I'm using right now. I'm going to swap it out for 75. And then this thing down here is a Leaker 75 that I got to redo. But as you can see, they light up just fine. I'll show you a tank that I don't think I've ever done a video on before. It'd be my little white labs. My one only little African tank in here. Outside of everything else I keep all New Worlds and Amphilophus, but so one little kind of African that I do like. Believe it or not, there's actually in that 29-gallon tank there's actually 12 white labs and one little lemon drop pleco. I believe the pleco is actually hiding back behind the sponge filter. Might be able to see some of the labs zipping around in there. And also a couple of assorted angels down here. Both these things also get the small cichlid and tropical blend. And in 1 second we'll jump out to the living room to the Lion's Eye and Trimac. Alright, now we're back out here with the Lion's Eye. Like I was saying, I got fry all the way from here. See a couple of them right there. And they're spread all the way down the length of this tank. Out of 6 feet, they're mostly probably in about 3 foot of it, maybe 4. But they do stretch all the way down to about 5. And there's only a couple stragglers that make it way down here, but for the most part they stay with mom and dad. Which we'll give mom and dad a little bit of food real quick. These guys are getting a swap between power feed and large cichlid. Kind of just depends on what I end up grabbing that day when I bring it out of the bedroom. Well, they've been doing a pretty good job of, they'll take some pellets and they'll fluff it out for the fry to get to. Bottom of this tank's looking kind of trashy lately, just especially ever since they went free swimming. I've been kind of neglecting doing a gravel vac on it to try to get some of this all pulled out, just because I don't want to start sucking a bunch of fry out. It's going to be one that I'm probably going to have to shut the lights off for a couple hours, kind of let everyone settle down. The fry kind of bunch up at night, so I'll have to do that and kind of come in here with a spotlight and try to get some of it pulled out while everyone's sleeping. Make it a lot easier when Dad isn't awake and trying to pull my fingers off, because he's definitely developed an attitude. But also to kind of supplement what the parents have been fluffing out, I got a little bit of nano krill and power feed that I've ground up that I use for my gel food. I just put a little dusting of that in. Typically I try to get it somewhere near some of the driftwood and near the sponges, because it's just something real light that the sponges can draw in. Good little close-up of Mom. But you can see fry like picking off on the sponge. Good little grazing ground for them. It's one of the reasons I like my dual sponges. It gives a lot more space for them to try to graze on. Close up of Dad. Come right up to you and say hi. Not a huge fan of the full breeding dress, how he's kind of barred up, but I think that's just from him being so defensive right now of all the fry. When he was showing off, the bars weren't really there. He just had that lateral flower line. His reds really came out, some of his oranges. His tail's super red. Now you can see his anal fin and lower half of his fins are all pretty dark, almost a black. Down here, got my Trimac pair. He's working on his way to becoming a little bit of a chunk too. He'll constantly eat and eat. And she's definitely probably her most forward when it's feeding time. They're both always right up at top, waiting for food. And if we can try to get a shot of it, I actually came up with names for these two, kind of based off of a little bit of help from Mike, Mr. Man. This is the female I end up keeping. You can kind of see her one teardrop on her sides, kind of in the shape of a T. Kind of wanted to do something in connection to that. See right there. So, with his suggestion, I really liked it. We went with Trinity. And kind of went along with her previous name. Her and her sister's previous names were Thelma and Louise. Came that way from previous owner. Louise is now with Mike with his big guy Titan, new name Gaia. So at least this girl here ended up keeping the T with her name. So went from Thelma to Trinity. And like any good classic movie, who better to go with Trinity than Neo? He hasn't been able to, I don't think he can dodge bullets or make them stop, but he's a big lush and good looking guy. But these guys are definite big healthy eaters. As you can see, he'll come right up at the top. And of course, water level's a little low on this tank. There's going to be another one that's going to be getting water changes tonight. I also got this tank's also got to get converted over to sponge filters shortly. Is really my only main tank that's still got power filters on it. It's running two AC 110s, but good filters. But I just want to try to get everything moved over to air. A lot nicer, and you don't have that waterfall effect like you do with these when water level gets a little lower. But before this video gets any longer, I'll let you guys go and catch you next time. Have a good one.